Hi, everyone. Welcome to Alexandra Joy TV. I am so honored, full of joy today to be with Amit and Kumar Ramlall. I hope I did okay with how I said your names. I met them actually in a course that I've done recently with Dr. John DeMartini, and I just had to have them on the channel. They were gracious enough to accept the offer to be interviewed. This is my first time doing it this way, over Zoom, as Skype, over this system versus live. So I'm excited for this new way of interviewing. Today, again, I'm with Amit Chintan and Kumar Ramlall. And Amit was labeled at a young age as having autism spectrum disorder and thought somehow stupid, even though he was displaying a gift for learning advanced material by 4 years old. He is now 12 years old and has read over 13,000 books. Yes, you heard that correctly, 13,000 books. I don't even think I've read that many books by some of the greatest minds that have ever lived. He's passionate and studies the greatest leaders and teachers and philosophers of our time and in historical times. He's a visionary behind the Chintan Project, and we'll get to exactly what that is. It is a project dedicated to helping us all, adults and children of all ages, find and focus on our true callings in life. It's amazing who he is in the world. He is, I'll get into asking him the specific questions about why he was named Amit Chintan and what that means, because it's very, very, very appropriate. His father, Dr. Kumar Ramlall, is a leading medical specialist and pediatrician focused on helping children, irrespective of diagnosis or label, to maximize their function and contribution to the world. Kumar is Amit's voice for communication, and at this point is also the co-founder of Amit's project, the Chintan Project. So it's an absolute joy and honor, as I've said 3 times now, to be with them. Today we will be discussing Kumar's incredible journey as a father, as a doctor of such an extraordinary human being, Amit's journey as a child who was labeled very early on with the form of autism, and how that really created his mission, vision, purpose, and values in the world. I am really excited to talk to him about what he sees for our world and what he sees for his own world, what he wants to create in his organization, and really what's next for them both. So let's get in there right away. I just wanted to start with, I know we just need some explanation on how you communicate together, given the challenges around speaking. So if you could just tell us how the interview is going to go, because I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and I know Amit actually communicates in various ways. So if you could just let us know how that's going to go, that would be great.
Well, firstly, Alexandra, thank you very much for having us on. It's quite an honor to be doing this, and especially with you trying out the new technology, because I really feel that
messy as it is, we'll get it right.
It lets the people that you're helping to bring to the world get to the world, right? And this just makes the world a bigger place. So Amit, as you said, did have a form of autism spectrum disorder. And part of that leads to him having troubles with his sensation and how he processes things that are sensory inputs. And it also leads to problems with him expressing things out to the world. So he might want to say something, but either no words come out with his voice, or the words come out garbled or in unusual order when he would say them. So to try to help him to organize that thought, he uses a card, this one here, and that card we did not invent. It is called a facilitated communication board, and it literally is the alphabet. And what Amit does is he types out his responses. With this card, we have done thousands of pages of manuscript that Amit has written, but not yet published. And so, as you will see over the course of the interview, I've gotten quite good, as does his mom, at reading this card and what it is that he's saying.
Right. So I'll ask you a question, and then Amit will respond by his hand, right?
He will respond by. And what my role is with this is actually to pull his hand away from the board, because the tendency with autism and with many different kinds of developmental problems is what is called perseveration. So he will tend to hit on the same letter. And so my job is to pull his hand back so that then he will go on to the next letter and type what it is that he's expressing.
And how long have you guys been communicating this way?
Since Amit was about 3.5 years of age.
Wow.
And initially, he did it only with his mom. And because the Institute for Achievement of Human Potential, where we learned this communication, actually recommended that one parent do it initially. And then over time, Amit has allowed me into that world to see what his innermost thoughts are. And now we do most of his consultation work and most of his formal writing, him and I.
Okay, and that way, with that way.
With that card, yeah.
Okay, and do you use the computer on it? Can you actually type in the computer, or is it through, that way? So it's not actually, okay, that's your keyboard. That's your keyboard.
No.
Oh, okay.
I can type. In fact, I can type about 40 words per minute.
Great, okay.
But the challenge is that there are missing chunks on the page. I have a fully developed idea in my mind, but my expression, my fingers are not as fast. That leads to missing parts of my argument, missing parts of my discussion. So my typing seems to not make as much sense as I intend.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating. And I know one of the reasons when I had asked you to do this, you hadn't done it before, you haven't been interviewed before, is because of the concern that people are going to think that is you speaking, Kumar, not Amit, that you're somehow, speaking for him in the process. How have you dealt with that? How do you deal with that?
That has been a concern on our part. And if I can address that too, that has been a concern on our family's part. And one of the main reasons that Amit has been reluctant to publish his work to date, like I said, we've got thousands of pages of manuscript already that have not been published. And Amit would really have hoped to be able to say his thoughts independently so he could defend his ideas when questioned about it. And so it would be clear that he was the one who developed them.
Yes.
And we have respected his wishes to not go public with that material until he was ready.
Yes.
And we had a fascinating experience at actually one of Dr. DeMartini's courses where Amit gave a discussion to the class about autism. And it was an inspired moment, not just for me as his dad and for Amit and for John DeMartini himself, but for the members of the class who were there. And one of the class members actually videotaped what Amit was saying and showed it to her husband, who's not in the room at the time. And he said that's clearly the dad who was doing it. And she wrote to Amit about that, that this was what her husband said. And she said she was shocked that that's what he would say. But yet that is clearly how much of the world would see what is happening here. And So what that gentleman had done was kindly brought front face to us the challenges that Amit would face as he would go out to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get into that because it's interesting. When I met you, Amit, I was, I'll just say it right now, I was faced with the possibility of possibility for human beings and how I had no excuses. You know, so it's almost like we don't want to see what's really possible for us. So I thank you for, again, and I said this to you before, moving me into like, you know what? Anything is possible for human beings, so just do it.
Would you be willing, Alexandra, to share that moment of inspiration that we shared together when we saw you on the big screen?
I don't know if I remember at all. You're going to have to help me, but I absolutely, I just remember being struck by in that process because you were coaching me about how to expand my business. And I just remember thinking, there is no age. There is no container and boundaries that we can put anybody in. You, a 12-year-old, anybody, because I was there being coached profoundly by someone who was wise, who understood me, who listened to me, and that I certainly would pay as a coach. So I think all the definitions of what I think the world should look like, everything went away. And when it came to your specific question about being on the screen, I actually now I'm living inside of, wow, I could play a bigger game called taking these interviews to really like a bigger media platform and everything. It stretched me is my point. You know, I was like, no excuses, no limitations. So I don't know if that explained it, but it was a moment.
It is fascinating that that is how you perceived that moment. Because, as you know, I define a child as someone in a state of readiness to learn and to grow.
That's exquisite.
And in that regard, I believe that we all are children in the eyes of the universe. Because why else are we here but to learn and to grow, and thereby to serve in the way that we are best designed.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, I have a list of questions and now I'm like, wow, how do I even start? Because we're going right to it, which I love. I love that we are, your definition of children being, whenever we are children when it comes to especially stepping into any new realm of possibility that presents itself or that we're yearning for, to bring forth, and, you know, to serve the universe or to serve others or to serve ourselves. We're at that. I love that you're a child at the beginning of any stage, and it's interesting because we give, and with my children, I give them so much permission, because they're children. And what I got from you just said, what you just said was how we should be giving ourselves permission at the start of anything, especially when we're up to a big game in life.
Because, Alexandra, at this very moment, we each, us three, are children being ready to learn, to grow, to stretch ourselves, not because we have to, but because that is why we are here. There is something from within that calls us.
Yes.
That is the calling that I speak about. The higher calling, if you will.
So you write about having that calling. You call it the calling of your own soul that you had at a young age. You, Amit, what was that like, and what is that like living inside of that now?
I wrote then, as I feel now, that I am here with a mission, with a reason, and because there is some purpose for me here. I fundamentally believe that we are here, and the things that we experience are all purposed so that we learn the most, grow the most, and serve the most. So I know now some of the void that led to the importance I place on being true to who you are.
So, you know, we talk about mission. First of all, for the people who are listening who don't necessarily know what mission and purpose and vision is, can you just give us your definition so that we kind of create an equal platform?
I believe that purpose is the thing that you do, that you contribute, that feels most natural to you. Dr. DeMartini describes this as your highest value, as that which is most important to you.
And vision?
Vision is tied to how we see the world with our mission accomplished. And mission is why we are here. It is the job that we do.
And so what is it like for you, and what has it been like for you, Amit, to have this wisdom at such an early age and live in this world that just looks at you like a child? I mean, we can't help it. You're 12, that's what we do.
It is firstly humbling, because I look around me and I see people who are each making massive contributions to the world and not seeing it. not remotely aware of their own ripple effect. I find that challenging, and I will admit sometimes daunting, but I find it in the same moment inspiring, because it means that the world needs me and my mission more than I realized before.
So I asked my children, I said, well, you know, I told them I was interviewing you and that you've read 13,000 books at 12. And I said, well, what questions do you want me to ask? My oldest is 11, 9, and 7 are the sequence of ages. And the question they came up with was, did you go to school? So do you go to school? Did you go to school? What's that experience like?
I am, for the record, and so my parents don't get into trouble with the law, registered for homeschooling.
Okay, and so what's your normal day look like? Do you study every day? How does that give us some sense of what your life's like?
I spend time each day thinking about the biggest challenges of our time and of all time, and how I might be able to work to fulfill my mission in this regard. Some might call that daydreaming time, but it is most sacred to me. I spend time reading and watching videos on the internet. I spend time doing therapy too. Therapy that has been prescribed by the Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential, and therapy from the Carrick Institute, and therapy that we have invented ourselves to help me move forward. So my days are full of inspiring work. I like doing my therapy because I see it as a way of getting me ready to take my message to the world sooner.